Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1980s.
He couldn't have walked very far because I cut off his legs and his arms and his head. And I'm going to do the same to you.
This is episode 171, recorded December 23rd, 2020.
Gruesome Magazine.
Let's add everybody to the stream. Oh, here we all are. I am your befuddled host, Jeff Mohr, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1980 and 1989. Each episode, my co-hosts Bill Mulligan, Crystal Cleveland, and Chad Hunt, and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this radical, gory, influential, and gruesome decade. Joining me tonight is Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl. How you doing, Crystal?
I'm great. It's getting even colder outside, although it's much colder where you are. And we got to, this is the first time watching this movie for me, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, this is our first video, and we're doing this on we're for 80s anyway, and we're doing this in we got people on the road and their families' homes, and a guy running the show that's he's getting old.
1986.
So quick, yeah. To think that's 1986 exactly. So next up is Chad Hunt, also co-host of Decades of Horror, the 1970s and classic era. How you doing, Chad?
I am freaking awesome, Jeff. From what I'm told.
Okay. Okay.
I would agree with that. With that. And last but not least is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, and special effects guru, co-host of Decades of Horror, the 1970s, and all around nice guy.
Aww. Thank
It's
you.
a pretty pink room. Yeah, it's a pretty pink room.
This is my granddaughter's bedroom. I'm visiting family in Minnesota. There's a snowstorm blazing outside because it's Minnesota. And I wonder if there's any people, because you guys, we've done video stuff in other Decades of Horror things. I wonder if there's any first-time viewers, like this is the first time they've seen any of us. And they're like, oh my God, Crystal's even more beautiful than I imagined. And Chad, Jeff, and Bill are, pretty much what I thought.
Speak for yourself. I'm pretty.
Be interesting.
Yeah, sure.
I'm so pretty.
Oh, so pretty.
Depends which side we're looking at. But, all right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, the side that's hanging up on the poster at the post office is my best side. So.
All right. Our movie pick this week, which is my pick, at any rate, is The Hitcher. It is, I love this movie. Released in February 21st, 1986, directed by Robert Harmon, written by Eric Red, and the cast includes Rutger Hauer, C. Thomas Howell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and those are really the three biggies. But we also get a mention on the poster for Jeffrey DeMunn. One of the taglines is "Never pick up a stranger."
Yeah.
That's good.
I've got a story about that. But anyway, the synopsis. A young man who escapes the clutches of a murderous hitchhiker is subsequently stalked by the Hitcher and framed for his crimes. All righty. Well, let's get to our first impressions here.
Well, you should start since you.
Yeah.
It was your choice.
What am I doing wrong? Here we go. I said I wasn't going to do that, and there I did. So let's. What I have to do is go through some of the details here. So I'm having a hard time switching here. I think I'm going to have to get a bigger screen. So the production company. This is kind of interesting. It was done by HBO Pictures in collaboration with TriStar Pictures. who did the distribution theatrically. The actual first release date was January 17th in Victoria, Texas, 1986. But the countrywide release was, you know where that is?
Yeah.
Texas. It's in Texas.
Yeah. I lived in Texas my whole life. So, yeah.
All righty. But the countrywide release was February 21st. It's pretty much known as the Hitchhiker everywhere. Even in Germany, it's Der Hitchhiker. Or Der Hitcher.
Is hitchhiker like an American word that's been adopted by other countries?
I don't know. It must be. Although the French Canadian title is L'Auto Stopper, which if you
toe stopper, does a lot more than that. Yeah.
Which if you put it in a translator translates to hitchhiker. It was filmed in California and Nevada, and I believe in Arizona as well. That wasn't listed there, but I read some interviews where they talked about it being in 3 states. Filming dates were February 11th, 1985 through April 1985. The budget is estimated at $6 million. The domestic box office opening weekend was $2 million, a little over $2 million. And USA gross is listed at $5.8 million.
Okay.
Seems low. I actually went to this in the theater, so I just assume if I went to it, it was a big hit.
Yeah.
So let's get to the other taglines.
Oh,
and
here we
Chad, you up for this?
I'm never up for it, but okay. Tagline number 1. The terror starts the moment he stops, and not a moment too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Okay.
Not sure who he is, but okay.
Yeah.
Never pick up a stranger.
Yeah, we got that one.
Good advice. Yeah.
Think things my mother says.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Whatever you do, don't stop for the Hitcher.
Yeah.
That sounds too naggy.
Yeah.
The terror starts when he stops, not the moment he stops. But when he stops.
I think. See, isn't it interesting? Those are almost the same tagline, but I think the first one is way better. The moment he stops sounds better. You know, it just that one word makes it.
Yeah.
Taglining is difficult.
He came from hell. Don't ask him where he wants to go.
Oh gosh, that's ridiculous.
No, that's terrible.
No.
Yeah.
That makes it sound kind of supernatural as well.
Right.
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Kind of. On a dark desert highway, the rule of thumb has a different meaning.
That's just plain.
Okay.
Okay.
The rule of thumb has a different meaning.
Boy, that's
brilliant. Run with it.
No, run. Just run.
Jeff, you said you had a story behind never pick up a stranger. What's?
Well, I could get into this, but so I took a 6-week trip when I was like 21, and went through the western states. I didn't go as far as Colorado, but Utah, Montana, Wyoming. I didn't go as far as California. Utah, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. Just driving, and I picked up a couple guys hitchhiking, and they turned out to be 2 guys from Australia that didn't know each other before they got here, according to them.
Yeah.
And, having a good time, stopped, got some beer, went down to a little roadside thing and camped out. And
I'm amazed you're still with us.
And I had a tent. Yeah, but it's one of those things where I kind of freak myself out. I'm laying in my tent going, you know what? they could kill me.
He's got a real pretty mouth, ain't he?
Yeah.
And nobody would have any idea of it for like a
And
week.
they're from Australia. Everything kills you in Australia.
Well, yeah. They probably had poisonous snakes and spiders with them.
Yeah, they were probably venomous themselves.
My other hitchhiker story, before we go too far, is my dad claims he used to hitchhike home from the Army when he was in basic training, or maybe when it was in school. I don't know. But a guy stopped and picked him up, and they're driving along, and the guy tells him, you hear so many weird things about hitchhikers and people, the hitchhikers killing the people that pick them up, or the people that pick them up, killing the people, the hitchhikers, so I'll tell you what. Let's just get this out of the way. I'll put my gun on the seat, and you put your gun on the seat. And the guy pulls out a gun and puts it on the seat.
Well, he was just trying to protect himself, just in case, right?
Well, he was actually like, according to my dad, he was like an FBI agent, and thought he was being real funny. You know,
Oh, fun! If that car were going 70 miles an hour, I would still open the door and take my chances with the door. I'd be so out of there.
So that is it. Well, let's go with first impressions, and I guess I picked this one, so I'll go first. This is one of those things that kind of freaks me out, and those are a couple of the reasons behind it. But this is kind of like, feels to me like Duel. You know, the Steven Spielberg TV movie, only with a guy, we get to see the guy, and he drives lots of different trucks. You know, it's not just one truck chasing me. I absolutely love this movie. I went to the theater with it, and I don't know if I've seen it much since then, so I was really interested to see if it held up, and I really liked it. Of course, there's lots of weird kind of plot holes in it. You have to just sort of suspend belief about all of this stuff. And I think what they try to do, there's a lot of sort of mundane radio music and music newscasters and things like that that play in the background that kind of make it seem everyday, right? And then this guy just kind of is able to show up and do all kinds of stuff and get away with it. And when he's caught, he can escape and that kind of stuff. So I liked it. I think it still, I still caught myself, with a lot of, goosebumps, I guess. It was still chilling to me. And I absolutely love Rutger Hauer in this.
Me too.
He is incredible. And we'll talk about
Tommy
this later.
did a good job.
I think all three of them, everybody did a good job. I think everybody in the movie, and it's got a good cast, but I think one thing that really makes the movie is the cinematography. It's almost like the desert is the fourth character or something. The cinematography is just wonderful. So with that, we'll switch and let's go to Crystal and see when was the first time you saw Hitcher, and does it still hold up now?
Well, today was the first time that I saw Hitcher.
Ooh.
And I've never seen this one, but I do love Rutger Hauer, and I love Tommy. Like, he's great in everything that he does. So, and he's cool. So I kind of dig that guy anyway. But so here's my biggest thing about the movie. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I liked the cinematography. I loved conceptually the story. It's such a simple premise, but there's a lot to it. There are a ton of plot holes, as you said, but what I feel like is the greatest missed opportunity here is I cannot believe that they didn't make Tommy's character have DID, dissociative identity disorder. I thought for sure that he was Rutger Hauer. Absolutely 1000%. And I could even show points and I could even see how they would explain it off as him, because it's like he showed up out of nowhere, right. Had these conversations. I mean, it was just, and the things that Tommy's character didn't make any sense, except if you viewed it in relation to what Rutger Hauer's character was doing. And I was like, I just feel like that was such a missed opportunity. I think it would have been absolutely fantastic had they pulled that twist at the end. Because it's like, okay, here they're in the semi when they're about to split Jennifer, Jason, Leigh. Rutger Hauer is driving this vehicle, and the cop goes, "Well, I don't know what you're going to do. Go ahead and get in there and see what you can do." What? What? There's so much that would never happen. Mm-hmm. That would absolutely not happen. They would not be trying to send him in to cool this guy down. It's just such. And he's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he says, "You'll find out, or you're smart guy. You'll figure it out." And
never figured it out.
It was never figured out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, I just feel like that was a missed opportunity. Like there was definitely a way they could, like one personality could know about the other and one didn't even realize it was happening. And like how when he woke up in jail and the door was just open, I was like, it's perfect if he had killed all those cops and then went and put himself in jail and then slipped into his other personality. I mean, it all would have made so much sense.
Mhm.
And yet it didn't happen. I feel like that was just missed. I think
Well,
it would
that
have
shows
been
how much
absolutely
imagination.
brilliant.
That shows how much imagination I have, because over the 34 years since this came out, that never crossed my mind. We'll find out. But the other guy said, no, it's actually good. It would hold true pretty well. I liked the way it went, but it could have gone another way.
I think it would have been brilliant. I think I would have kind of bowed down to this film because the way it started out, it was like, oh, just the way certain things happened. I was like, it has to be. I was like, there's no way it's not. There's no way. I was like, I know it is. No. But it was still good. I still enjoyed it. But because they didn't take that direction, it's honestly silly at points because there's just no way. How is he getting away in this semi-truck? And he got away with him. Well, technically he didn't get away. They actually got him. And then they brought him in to talk to him. Oh, it's just so...
Yeah.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. I obviously I enjoyed it because see how wrapped up I am in it. I'm like, yeah. So I think it was great. I think it was done really well. I liked everyone, and it was like I said, simple concept. I'd actually like to remake it and have that ending.
They remade it, but not that way. Not that way.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
So,
Michael Bay.
all right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chad Hunt, when was the first time you saw this, and does it still hold up?
I rented this as soon as it came out on VHS. I rented this, and I am completely with Crystal on this one. I thought he's doing it. He's doing it. It's all in his mind. He's doing it. There's no way this guy just shows up out of nowhere,
yeah,
and just starts going, "No, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna kill," and just the Bugs Bunny logic behind the way he would come in and see Thomas Howell in trouble and then just be on his merry little way, until the next. It made no sense. So by the second or third time I watched this, I was like, this guy is like I think Crystal brought up when we were reading the taglines. I thought this was supernatural. I thought maybe this guy's a ghost. Or, I mean, the logic holes are so huge. You can throw all these ideas through the holes, and anything seemed to fit. But there was no motive. There was no reason. He seemed suicidal, which I also attributed to maybe C. Thomas Howell maybe is suicidal on this trip, and he's just fractured. His mind is fractured or something. So I was thinking all these things, and
think about the way the cops said, "Do you know who this is?" Like they were certain.
Yeah.
Like they were certain he was the guy, and it's like, yeah.
So there's a lot of hoops you can throw boulders through as far as logic goes, but having said all that, I really like this movie. It's just a taut thriller. It's you never know what's going to happen next. The scene where Jennifer Jason Leigh gets pulled apart, you were not expecting that. I don't care who you are. You just didn't think she was going to die. And spoilers, but
yeah.
But
he split, as Crystal said.
Yeah, I'm out of here. What happened to her? She split. But it holds up. There's some of the dialogue is a little clunky in places, but Rutger Hauer, man, and C. Thomas Howell. I mean, they just made perfect foils for one another, and so yeah, it's one I enjoy, and it still holds up, and I still enjoy watching it today.
Yeah, cool. Plot holes galore. Gee, I wonder what Bill Mulligan's going to think of this. Bill, when was the first time you saw the Hitcher, and what were your first impressions?
I saw wood because anytime I do anything, chopping vegetables, all the scenarios go through my head of how this is going to end badly. And once I picked up some hitchhikers because they told me they needed to go to the hospital. And okay, you got to put fear aside when people are in need. Now, it wasn't until about 5 minutes into the trip that I realized what kind of hospital they needed to go to.
What kind of hospital was that?
And indeed, they were at a mental hospital. And I don't mean to judge people who are dealing with mental illness, but some of y'all are crazy.
I had no idea.
You're crazy. And these crazy people started going crazy in my back seat, and I thought I was going to die. So you better be bleeding. There better be some visible injury if you expect me to ever pick you up, or you're a woman. Because it's raining. Because once the one time I had to hitchhike, my car broke down, and a carload of migrant workers with no room for themselves stopped and picked me up, which I will never forget. It was in the rain, it was dark, and so got to keep that in mind. Anyway, I saw this in the movie theater when it came out, and then as now, I liked it, but it annoys me.
Yeah.
For all the reasons we've said, the plot holes are ludicrous. It's this, and in fact, this is one of my least favorite genres of movies, where you have a villain, a supervillain, or even a hero like Rambo, and the success of this character depends on everybody doing exactly what they think they're going to do. And I always think, like Rambo, there's a scene where the guy's looking for Rambo, can't find him, and he's like by a wall of mud, and all of a sudden an eye opens up in the wall of mud. Rambo has covered himself in mud, and he's waiting for someone to come by so he can cut his throat. And if that guy never walked by, he'd be there still, starving to death, waiting for someone to walk by the wall of mud. These people could have walked anywhere, but he knew they'd walk by the wall of mud. And for this character to be real, to be doing the things that he's doing, everybody has got to behave exactly as he expects them to behave. If they zig instead of zagging, it all falls apart. And that's just unrealistic if he is an actual character. I don't know when I was watching it if I thought about C. Thomas Howell being the bad guy all along. Certainly if I were watching this movie for the first time now, having seen that big revelation so many times, that would be my default expectation. So the fact that doesn't happen actually is more shocking to me than the shock twist.
Yeah.
But if I were making this movie, if I were running this movie now, that would be the twist. And I'll tell you exactly when it would happen. When he calls his brother on the phone, at some point in the movie, we find out that the reason the brother doesn't answer is that he and everyone in the house has already been murdered, presumably by the character that we've been following all along. But there's no way that works, that you can do that and still have the most memorable part of the movie, which is the truck scene. And I think that's why it didn't do that well. Because quite frankly, although it's a brilliant scene, and we always expect the hero to rescue the damsel in distress, and when it doesn't happen, it definitely subverts expectations. It's definitely memorable, and we don't like it. And I think word of mouth was that this movie I think it's really enjoyable. The cinematography by the guy who did, and I should know, he did Mad Max Fury Road, which is maybe the greatest cinematography of the last ever. Really good stuff. Like you say, the desert's practically another character. Rutger Hauer was one of the great cinematic presence characters of our time. I mean, I fell in love with the guy in Blade Runner, and he was never, even as he got older, even as, the ravages of age, he was still like a monument that was falling apart. There was still something almost majestic about this guy. He was a physical presence. He's great in this, just pure malevolence, but doesn't have to raise his voice, doesn't have to say anything, really. In fact, when he tells you, cut off his arms, cut off his legs and everything, he says it just like I'd say I mailed a letter in the mailbox. It's just, this is what he is, this is what he does. So all the various parts add up to an entertaining film. But you can't think about it too much because it doesn't hold together. It doesn't really make sense. So an unusual film. I don't know. I guess you say they remade it. Did they pretty much just remake it the same, only with different actors?
Michael Bay remade it. And I think he switched. If I'm not mistaken, they switched the scene with Jennifer Jason Leigh with Halsey getting split instead of the female.
Well, it was a couple right from the start. It was a couple driving to spring break at like Glenwood Canyon or something, and Sean Bean plays the Hitcher. It to me, it was kind of like a movie that didn't need to be made because
Sean
a lot
Bean,
of it is shot for shot like the original movie. Only they changed the order, and it's the woman at the end that is the survivor.
I could see Sean Bean doing a good job and all. I mean, all the actors are good. Even the police. One thing I like about this is one of the few movies where, so the audience is one step ahead. We know the guy's innocent. We know the Hitcher is real. The cops don't, but the cops are reasonable people. They are not like out to get this guy necessarily. Their reactions are perfectly normal. Were you in their position, you wouldn't believe this bullshit story either. So, I like that. And, like I said, a lot of good acting and all.
So my question, Bill, is because I kind of felt like they stuck with, I thought the actions were logical. I didn't think that the fact that he was like this phenomenal driver and marksman was maybe the most hardest thing.
The way he shot at the helicopter.
But actually, I've always wondered why they don't shoot more helicopters down, because all you got to do is hit the turbine or one of the blades, and the thing's just going to fly apart.
Those things shouldn't. I don't think they work at all.
Or throw a tomato at it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tomato head. Yeah, look at Attack of the Killer Tomato.
It was supposed to just fly by and it crashed. That's what they do.
So, but I thought everything was sort of logical. I mean, not logical, but like the one time he comes in and gives him his keys in that old, abandoned gas station, and then goes out and hitches a ride. Maybe the guy doesn't pick him up right away.
I'm with you on that, but the finger thing is, so this guy's got to figure out which diner is he going to go to. He's got to sneak in there. He's got to kill someone. He's got to I'll bet he's going to order a hamburger.
Well, he killed the guy that gave him the truck ride.
Yeah.
And apparently took his finger with him.
And how to get the finger into the French fries.
Yeah, that part I didn't get.
He's always ahead of him. And that's what I'm saying. It would only make sense if they were a split personality.
I'll give you the...
You have to watch this as if it's as a Michael Myers movie or a Jason movie. You just have to look at it like that.
That's right. Suspension of disbelief is
the same kind of logic applies in those movies as well. Weird things happen just for the sake of shock and scary. So that's the way I have to look at it.
Well, I'll give you the finger, Bill, but I don't do that.
Will you now?
I'll give you the point about the finger.
That doesn't even sound right. I'll give you the point.
It would be the first time.
But the other times, I felt like he was just kind of following along, looking for opportunities. He was driving on these frontage roads. Now, granted, the crash of the two cop cars was pretty coincidental. Maybe,
to say the least.
There's a lot of pyrotechnics in this, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we get the gas station blow up. We get him driving. What's the lead character's name? Jim.
Halsey.
Jim Halsey. He drives his car out there on flames, and then we blow up a cop car, I think. And the cop cars don't blow up, but they do a double barrel roll crisscross.
And here's a tip for anyone that's standing in gasoline and the bad guy throws a match at you and you run and jump in the car. Please don't take time to roll the window up when you get in the car. You kind of want to get away.
He wanted to keep the fumes out, I thought. I don't know.
I guess. There's one other twist that could have maybe tied it all together in a logical way. And I almost expected this watching it the second time. Because it's been a while since I hadn't seen it since it first came out. If at the very end, spoiler alert, after killing the Hitcher, we got the sense that he was the new Hitcher, that this guy was a man who was possessed, a spirit, an entity, a demon, and now that's what he was trying to do, was to actually pass it on to a younger version of himself. and that now this would start over again, and that would explain some of the almost supernatural elements without making it overt.
Mhm.
And that's fine.
Because what was
I can
his
deal with
purpose?
that.
Why was he? Yeah, why
Yeah.
was he dicking with this kid? What was his?
Oh,
This
you're
guy,
a smart guy. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
No.
No, we never did. I'm
Well,
pretty
he
smart.
kicked
I
him
never
out of the
figured it out.
car. He didn't get to just cut his arms and legs and head off and leave him there. You know.
Well, when you go fishing, you don't score with every cast. I mean, he took out a lot of
Yeah.
people in this movie. What's the body count in this movie, really? I assume every family, everyone who picked him
well,
up
I
was
don't know.
pretty high.
I don't
Ugh.
know that's the family with the 2 kids is
Yeah,
4.
that
The
was
guy in the
neat.
Volkswagen is 5. The original John Ryder, that they make some
Mhm.
comment about that. So there's 6.
A bunch of dead
The
cops.
guy in the pickup, there's 7. 2 cops is 9. The cops in the cars that roll, that's 11. And there's probably more that I'm not thinking of. But,
He kills a lot
Jennifer
of people in a short
Jason
period of time.
Leigh.
yeah.
Yeah. ugh.
So this is
Yeah.
Robert Harmon's first feature film directing. However, interestingly enough,
Oh.
he had done a short called China Lake that was about 30 minutes long that was very similar to this plot line, only it was a cop who went on vacation. And when the cop went on vacation, he went down in this desolate desert areas and just kind of picked people that pissed him off to punish. And then a week later, he shows back up for roll call. Yep, here. How was your vacation? Ah, great. Really relaxing.
Good. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
interesting.
So,
Because he didn't really do many other horror movies except for maybe They, which I don't know if I've seen.
right.
I don't think that I think I saw something on YouTube that was a commentary about it, and I don't think that he thought this was a horror movie.
Which
There's a lot of
yeah. You can argue that. I have a rule in life that's gotten me this far, which is anytime your movie has one of the leads being torn to pieces between 2 trucks, you are a horror movie. You ain't Pixar, so shut up. You know,
Every
come
time
on,
that
give me a
happens.
break. Are there people
so-
wearing human suits made out of humans? It's a horror movie. Sorry, Silence of the Lambs, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and what happened, I don't know. He doesn't make a lot of movies, you know, in the next 15, 18, I guess it'd be 18 years. He makes maybe, I don't know, 10 movies, does a couple TV episodes, whatever. But then he does a television series, miniseries called Ike, Countdown to D-Day, that stars Tom Selleck as Eisenhower. And then from that point on, almost everything he does is with Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
He does
That turned out to be a good
series
wagon. Yeah, good horse to hitch your wagon to.
He does,
Yeah.
the whole series of those
Bloods.
Jesse Stone movies from the Robert Parker books, and then a bunch of episodes of Blue Bloods. So
that may not be the most artistically fulfilling thing as a creator, but from a I get to feed my family and buy a nice house standpoint, if you're a director and a fairly good, well-known, popular actor likes the way you treat them on set and wants you to work on their projects, there are worse fates than that.
well, and you get if you have a crew that everybody gets along and has fun together, you know. So anyway, that's kind of where he went. But we did mention the writing a little bit, which is
the story.
Eric Red. So what do we know about Eric Red?
Does everyone know the Eric Red story?
No.
Give us the Eric Red story.
Okay, well, Eric Red was at one time really kind of an up and comer, especially in horror. The Hitcher, Near Dark. He wrote Near Dark, so that alone would be fine. And then it was one thing after another. Blue Steel, Cohen and Tate, but he did like horror. He didn't abandon horror. Body Parts, Bad Moon, a fairly good little werewolf movie. Okay, but here's the thing: something horrible happened, where he accidentally, we don't know, nobody knows. He drove a truck that crashed into a crowded bar, killing 2 people.
Yikes.
He got out of the truck and attempted to kill himself by slitting his throat with a broken piece of glass. It is still kind of a mystery. I mean, if you read the reports and everything, it's a little baffling. He got taken to the hospital. He was never charged. There was a civil court thing. They settled for $1 million for the families of the 2 people killed. It's never really been well explained on how this happened. I've seen a number of articles. There's a few articles out there about it, and there's just more unanswered questions about it. It definitely stopped his career trajectory dead in its tracks, and he has done some things afterwards. But
do some comics or graphic novels.
I think he
Containment.
Oh, that may be. I mean, he's written some novels. He's done some other stuff through that, and it's kind of a sad story. He directed a few things. I mean, Bad Moon was directed by him. It's not a perfect film, but it's an enjoyable werewolf movie. And everything pretty much, ended. Certainly the great potential that he had, just Near Dark alone, was something that would have really gone places. So, they're just kind of a weird little Hollywood story. And also there's a lot of folks who look at it as, here's an example of how in Hollywood power has its privileges, that if this had been the Jeff Mohr story or definitely the Bill Mulligan story, it would end with Bill Mulligan in jail.
Well,
and yet
depending upon whether he was drinking.
I guess, yeah. And I don't know.
Maybe he just lost control or had maybe that's why he tried to hurt himself after he couldn't handle it. I don't know. That's crazy.
Just lots of unanswered questions. But, I think it's got some of the dialogue's it's a little clunky, but it does seem like, and I think we have this in the workflow, that there was a lot of meddling in this. There was a lot of studio interference, a lot of things that got cut, and they were to the end. They were trying to change the whole fate of Jennifer, Leigh.
Well,
which I can understand.
Interestingly enough, so 2 things. Eric Red talked about. There's a commentary with him and the director with watching the movie, and he that kind of explains something, because there's. I wonder when was that car crash? That was in 2000, and this commentary was about a year after that, I think, because they talked about so there. To me, there's some sort of pregnant silences in this commentary that made me wonder if they got along, and now I'm thinking maybe it was because of that. But anyway, he said that he originally, when C. Thomas Howell's character Jim, when they have John Ryder in the jail cell, and he goes in, says he wants to talk to him, and he goes in and shakes his hand, that he slips him a lockpick in the handshake. Because he wants him to get away so that he can finish him off or take care of him or something, And they took that out, and he still thought that would be better. But most of the other things they changed, he thought was better. But you're right. Now he does bring up something about the Jason Jennifer Leigh, the Nash character, not wanting to be torn apart, and he says to the director, "You want to tell that story?" And there's total silence. Nobody tells the story. Well, later on, in another thing, I read that Rutger Hauer, was in his Starr bus or Starr home or whatever. He had kind of a thing all rigged up. He'd made enough money in the last few years, and he wouldn't come out for that scene. And the producers go and talk to him and say, what's going on? And he goes, well, I'm going to, my character will lose the audience if I do this. and the producer says, holy crap, you already killed all these people in the family and the girl, and don't worry about it. The bad guys are the ones everybody.
You killed a bunch of kids. I mean, I would hope you've lost the audience long before then.
Yeah. So anyway, he finally got him out, and you can kind of tell there's a change. It's starting to get a little light out, where so he delayed enough to where the scene, the lighting started to change a little bit. Wow. But anyway, there was a bunch of stuff. They kept trying to change things, and according to the director, they were giving a screening to TriStar, which according to him said we didn't even have to do. They had no control over the movie. All they were distributors. They were, so they're giving them a screening, and they start shooting all these ideas at them. And, why don't you do this and do that? What about John Ryder's backstory, and what was he like as a kid, and all this other stuff? And the producer told him, well, if this was your movie, you could do that. But this is my movie, and we're not doing that. And that was the end of that. Now, I'm sure there's stuff that happened while they were filming, but anyway.
That's interesting.
Here, so let me throw this out to you guys. I mean, I definitely don't want it to ever happen to me or anyone I know. But if you really were strapped between two, I mean, she had her arms and her legs and everything, and he guns it. I'm assuming it's going to rip your arms out. Would that necessarily kill you? It's going to be the worst day of the week, no question about it. But would it necessarily kill you? It's not going to pull you in half in the middle. It's just
it depends on where the weakest point is.
Well, somebody would have to. Speaking of which, in the remake, they are pulled a half, and it's in the middle, and you see it on film.
But not the way the bottom works.
Anyway, I would think that you'd have to have, and by the time that happens, I suppose they could be there, but you'd have to have somebody there that could stop the bleeding right away, because you'd bleed out really fast out of those arteries.
Because she's an attractive young woman, and the thought of, I mean, it just seems like that's got to be one of the worst ways to die. Because you'll live for a little bit and be aware of the pain and the blood loss and just the awful mutilation aspect of it. There's something visceral about that, way beyond being stabbed or shot or any other things that he did.
Let's talk for a minute about Jennifer Jason Leigh. Put a few films up here that I knew about that kind of fit on there, and of course we have
female.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Hey, those two look familiar.
Bridget Fonda,
and
And if you didn't love her in The Hateful Eight, then we can't be friends.
Right, exactly. Dolores Claiborne too. So, with Kathy Bates. So the one was with her and Rutger Hauer, I think is called Flesh Plus Blood.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not seen it, but it was maybe a year, maybe 2 years before this. So they had already worked together, which is interesting, I think. But yeah, she's quite a, I've always liked her, and she's aging very well. I think she's approaching 60.
Wow, that's hard to believe, but
it is.
The numbers check out. So,
and I don't know. Apparently, she did not have a relationship with her father, Vic Morrow.
Wow.
As a fan of Combat, the TV show from the 60s, I found it interesting that the Jason in her middle name comes from Rick Jason Robards, who played the lieutenant on Combat. Was a very good friend. All right,
she's very good looking. I mean, she's very attractive, but in an accessible way. She has some good girl next door looks and everything, but a distinctive look as well. I thought Single White Female really underrated. That was some scary stuff.
So she's got range, right? God. She's got a lot of range.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
In this movie, she's basically kind of like the girl next door, stuck in this weird location,
which is believable. A lot of times they have these people look like supermodels, and they're working
in the middle of nowhere.
You're like, come on. She looked plausible, although probably way better looking than most folks working in Greasy Spoons. No offense to our Greasy Spoon fans out there, but it was believable.
So we also have, and I find this. Well, those were our three leads, and they're all just intense as hell in this movie. Rutger Hauer. These are the ones that I remember him from. In the 80s, he was just hotter than blazes, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Nighthawks, Blade Runner, Lady Hawk, and the Hitcher.
Oh, so much.
The upper right one is Hobo with a Shotgun, which is only watchable because of Rutger Hauer. It's a
And
fun
Dario
movie.
Argento's Dracula, which even with Rutger Hauer is not watchable.
Yeah, a man who played both Van Helsing and a vampire.
Yeah.
The other one there is the Salem's Lot remake, where he played Barlow, I think was his name. I've always liked Rutger Hauer, and I'll anytime a Rutger Hauer movie comes on, I'll watch it just to watch him.
Me too.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever given a poor performance ever.
So the other one I kind of wanted to bring up, which is sort of
Tommy.
he made a kind of a bad career choice right after this movie.
One of these things is not one I recommend. Listen, it was a different time, and you could get away with things like that. And nowadays, of course, you'll get canceled. I'm sure what can you do? It's so unfair to treat people by the standards of today. But he was in a lot of good stuff. And man, come on, Wolverines. That was Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Red Dawn was
between
so
Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen in that picture, and he was the older brother in E.T.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
what is it? The Outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was going to pull a picture for that, but I didn't. But those were all. He was hot too, really. E.T., The Outsiders, Red Dawn, and the upper right one is, I don't know if you guys watched it, but there was an AMC series called The Terror.
Yeah.
And the second season was called Infamy, which was about the Japanese internment camps in the U.S. And hauntings and demons, from the Japanese culture. And he was the guy in charge of the internment camp.
Hey, he was in Grandview, USA, and got to romp in the nude with Jamie Lee Curtis. This man is my hero.
And the bottom one is from The Punisher, the TV show.
Yeah.
I think he played a law guy, did he? Or who did? I'm not sure what his character was. I remember him, but I just don't.
He's aged well.
He was, he was also in a TV show. Oh God, I can't remember the name, where he played a serial killer.
Criminal Minds.
Criminal Minds. There we go. Yeah, and he's like, everyone wants me to die. Well, yeah, because you're a bad person.
Which kind of brings up the whole idea of, say, I want to die.
Yeah.
So these guys had good careers, but Thomas Howell, or Tommy, actually, everybody in these commentaries calls him Tommy, and I noticed Crystal called him Tommy.
Yeah.
So,
and I asked him, "What do I call you?" And he said, "You can call me Tommy." Alrighty then.
Yeah. Well, he talks about how that he was riding high, and that for him, Hitcher was like, he felt like it was like the first time he got to really act, really have a big part and emote. But after that, he said, I kind of felt like I was sort of king of the hill and got a pretty big head and made some bad decisions. And the guy's always worked. You got to hand him that. So I did mention all of these supporting characters, and this is one of those things I just go nuts over. So hopefully I won't bore everybody, but Jeffrey DeMunn should be recognizable to most people, right?
Who? Not
if you've ever seen a Frank Darabont movie, he's in almost every one of Frank Darabont's. He was Dale from The Walking Dead. He was in The Green Mile.
Oh my God! You're absolutely right. Dale from The Walking Dead. I totally.
He played the sheriff in The Blob, the 1988 Chuck Russell Blob movie.
You're right.
Yeah, he's everywhere. But not Chuck Russell, but Frank Darabont has it. I think he was in Shawshank. Was he in Shawshank too?
Wow.
Not sure, but yeah, he's everywhere. He's in everything.
Yeah.
Good actor.
I like his face.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's unique.
Yeah.
Well, he's an interesting character, and I like what Bill was saying, that most of the cops in this movie are act the way you would expect them to act, and there's a range. You know, there's some that get really ticked off over the loss of a friend, and there's other ones that are
Holding them back
thinking it through and holding them back. And then the one guy says, does this guy look like a killer to you? The next one over on the slide is Billy Green Bush, which I just remember him because of my favorite Western that almost nobody's seen, Monty Walsh from like 1972. He played a bad guy, cowboy, but he's the guy you see turn up, especially through the 70s and 80s. And John M. Jackson, does he look familiar to anybody?
He does
He looks familiar, but I don't know from where.
He played I'm not exactly sure what his rank was, but like the colonel or general or whatever in Jag.
Oh.
When he gets older, gray and bald. 180 some episodes, I think.
I love
Never
Jag.
watched it.
I didn't watch it either, but I knew I just knew him from commercials.
My
and
dad
stuff.
made me because he was naval aviation.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And Chad will know who Henry Darrow is.
Henry Darrow, I know from High Chaparral.
Absolutely.
Wasn't he in some Zorro, the TV show?
Oh, he might have been.
I think he played the father.
Yeah.
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. was the father at first, and then he took over as the father. But yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff too. I remember him mostly from High Chaparral.
Yeah, Manolito.
Yeah.
And finally, Armin Shimerman, who in this one plays the lawyer who does nothing really useful. He just occupies the room and asks him questions that he doesn't answer. You guys recognize him?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, again, familiar, but
yeah, exactly.
He was the bartender on Deep Space Nine.
Yes, he played Quark.
Quark.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You know what? Now I would have looked smart. I actually was going to say he looks like someone who's been on Star Trek. He's got the deep set eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you put a forehead prosthetic on and you got an alien. But
he plays a Ferengi.
Ferengi, wasn't it? Yeah.
Ferengi. That's not Ferengi.
Ferengi from the Boston.
Ferengi, from the African plains. Anyway, I thought, I just think, everything about this movie, they just packed these people in, and every one of them are competent character actors. It's interesting that he got all those people, and actually the one that's the most, let's talk a little bit about the cinematography. John Sayles not only he won an Oscar, but he was nominated 4 times, I believe. So if you look at the list of the movies that he's worked on, almost every one of them is a memorable, kind of well-known movie. And in fact, the Oscar, I believe, Witness, he had just made Witness or was working.
Beautifully shot film.
That at the time that he took this job, so he's in this job, he's working for I suppose he's kind of the director just kind of took. If the producer said, we got this guy here, you probably want to use John Seale. I think it's kind of the way that went, and they talked together, and it was the same kind of thing that you always think of, where they spent some time together, and he takes a few, and shortly into the movie, the director tells him he's doing great, and then he knows that their vision is the same, right? And he did a lot of things. He made them wait and do things, like when there's that scene where Jim Halsey, when he kind of loses it and runs off the road with the gun and kneels there on the sand dune, and he's going to shoot himself, and then all of a sudden the sun comes out from behind the clouds on him. He said that actually was not in the script, but that happened, and then he looked up at it, and so then later on they cut in a shot, where they found the sun coming out from behind the cloud. Just weird stuff like that. A lot of those shots that are like at dusk or a sunset or that, Seale is there saying, "We got to wait just a few minutes,
Well, you look at his list of films. I mean, these are some serious grade A
Yeah.
pictures where the cinematography is an essential part of the success of the films, like Mosquito Coast, Gorillas in the Mist. Wow.
Oh, Gorillas in the Mist.
Perfect
Well,
Storm.
he's
Good
from
Lord.
Australia, and he was a camera operator on Picnic at Hanging Rock way back
Well,
when. So,
and yes, he
yeah,
is attached to the Furiosa sequel to Mad Max or prequel, whatever it's going to be, and that's all to the good. So, yeah, good.
yeah, everything you
Man.
can think of, and I think he had nominations for what were they? Witness. He won for The English Patient, and he was nominated for Fury Road, Cold Mountain, and Witness, and Rain Man. So 4 nominations plus a winner.
Cold Mountains, exquisitely filmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is
Beautiful
this guy's in the
movie.
top tier of
Yeah, I think this
cinematographers.
guy probably made this movie as memorable as it is. He and Rutger Hauer. Other than that, it might not have had as much impact.
Yeah. I think he focused too much on the flaws otherwise.
That's my thinking.
Right.
Okay. So where are we? We've talked about the cast. We're kind of Henry Darrow. Trivia.
Oh, the one thing I saw in the trivia that was interesting is some of the alternative casting choices.
Oh,
and
yes.
If you think nobody could possibly measure up to Rutger Hauer, but they did have a very intriguing possibility, and one I wouldn't have initially thought of, but one of the great actors of our time, Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
That would be a different take. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have the imposing physical quality that Rutger Hauer has, but Sam Elliott has just about more gravitas than most celestial bodies. I mean, the guy, that's a real actor there, and I could see him. It would be a different style. It would be a more quiet menace, maybe a more cerebral menace. Yeah, I could see him being some semi-supernatural hitchhiker.
Somebody involved with the movie, and I'm thinking it was one of the producers, said that after his audition that he creeped him out so much he had, he was nervous walking out to his car and looking around and stuff. He was just totally freaked out. And that Sam Elliott, I thought was going to do it, but then had a scheduling problem, so I don't know. Could look and see what
if
else.
Sam Elliott threatened me during a Zoom meeting, I would move away and change my name.
Also, Rutger Hauer did all his driving stunts.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Who's
going to tell him no?
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't. I got Rutger Hauer in my movie. I'm going to pretty much let him do what he wants, I think.
Well, that explains why when he's driving and he's like just shooting like this. I mean, come on.
Right.
How did he hit the helicopter? He's like, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Pew, pew, pew.
I was like.
Yeah. Well, another thing that was cut was a sex scene between Jim and Nash, or Tommy Howell and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And it was in the script, but everybody agreed that it didn't make sense for their characters.
Well, it didn't need to happen. I mean,
I guess
nice. I kind of thought, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was nice that they're trying to like not die. There's a time and place for everything, and if you can survive the night, then there'll be plenty of time in the future. But anything that puts you in any sort of danger or keeps you from doing what you need to, which is run. It would not make sense. So I think that was a smart move. Maybe it wasn't maybe that's one more thing at knock against it in the profitability margin that, there really wasn't anything like that. But I think that was a very defendable choice they made there.
Yeah. No. I actually found that a little refreshing because it made sense. Right. I thought with their characters.
I agree.
I don't think I have anything else. I guess, and I don't know the words to this song, but Eric Red said the movie was inspired by the Doors songwriters on the Storm.
Riders on the storm.
There's a line in
Killer
there.
on the road,
Born.
squirming like a toad. Yeah, that's actually, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I used to love the Doors. I mean,
yeah, me too.
I still do. They just
I
haven't
still
produced anything
do.
new
Yeah.
lately. Yeah, just saying.
Did anybody notice, and I forget what scene it is, but Rutger Hauer, it's when he's in they're hauling him off from jail. He's in chains in the paddy wagon kind of, and he's humming to himself.
Yes, it was Daisy. It was Daisy,
Yes.
Daisy. I was like, give me your answer, please.
And I'm half crazy.
Yeah, I'm
all
half
for
crazy,
the love of you.
That was the part that
afford a
stuck out to me.
carriage. I know. I was like, is he really humming that? I was like, at first I was like, I must be imagining that. No.
And there was a lot of stuff that Rutger Hauer did. You know, that holding that knife so close to Tommy Howell's eye. That was like, didn't say in the script, hold the knife up there until he cries and a tear rolls down the knife. That was just
that's
a happy
injury
accident.
to the eye stuff. Is Now, I remember this when this came out. I remember, and I think it was mentioned in the notes, but watching the Tonight Show when Siskel and Ebert came out and they trashed this movie. They gave it no stars.
Yeah.
So I went to see it expecting a much bigger gore fest than I got, because I know they were really big on hating Friday the 13th movies and slashers in general. But this one, you're like, wow. I think they had a special hatred for this one because it was an A picture. It wasn't some little indie B film with no name actors that,
Oh, he was evil. He was evil all the way. Yeah, I had read that too. They did not like it. Don't go to this movie kind of thing. Which you know what? Usually made me want to go to the movie.
Yeah.
You know, the cinematographer said he was on a plane and a woman was talking to him, and what do you do? Oh, I'm a cinematographer. Oh, I know the movies you worked on, and he said, well, yeah, you might have heard of The Hitcher, and she just ripped him up one side and down the other for this terrible movie he made that showed this girl ripped apart, and he said, but she doesn't get ripped apart. She absolutely does. I saw it, and she didn't see the remake, and he said, I finally decided that she probably closed her eyes or something, and heard the sound effect. And so anyway,
on the blood and Texas Chainsaw that nobody saw.
Right. Rosemary's Baby. Everybody swears they saw it.
Frankly, this isn't in terms of the body count, it's not very gory. There's a lot of stuff where Tommy walks up to that station wagon and sees the bodies in there. I assume the kids' bodies, and runs back to his car and throws up.
But that's it. You see the aftermath. That's all.
And that's one of the things I liked about his performance. I just thought he was so realistic. Just freaking out when a normal person would freak out, and then finally getting to a point where he kind of has that I don't know, moment of clarity, I guess, where he was going to kill himself, and now it's time to put up.
I was like, oh, you're gonna just kill yourself, huh? That's a choice. It's not a solution, though. That's why I was thinking it has to be in his head. Once again, it totally supports the dissociative identity disorder. I'm just like, come on.
Right up to the part. It's totally going in that direction. Right up to the part where she's tied between the truck, and the cops are like, and you're the only guy that can help us.
But that actually, to me, supports.
That we were going to shoot 2 minutes ago. That was on the FBI's most wanted list.
See, that to me supports it even further. Like in his mind, the cops are sending him in to talk to himself. See, I could totally, I'm telling you, to me, that even just completes it. And he needed to, because, okay, here's the thing. The stupidest shit ever. They said, oh, we can't shoot him because if we shoot him, he's going to take his foot off the gas, and then it's going to kill her. And then when the conversation is, when they're in the vehicle, is, you got to shoot me, or else I'm going to kill her. It's the exact opposite.
Right.
And so here's the other thing. While they're in there talking to each other, somebody needs to be cutting her loose.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or just just send a truck and go into. That's the thing. I'm watching this. I'm thinking of other things they could have done but because of the requirements of the script, none of those ideas could have possibly come forward. Yes, well, they're having this big philosophical discussion. They should be cutting her with big old bolt cutters that can go through steel, and
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But he's
like,
he's a super villain. He was able to tie this girl up and do all these things. Nobody stopped and said anything. Not my business.
I know.
He's one step ahead, as always.
And yet he managed
we don't know
to
why.
escape.
Yeah, but then he gets taken out relatively easily. I mean, it did take him the whole movie to do it, but it didn't require superhuman effort to really kill him in the end.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, was his purpose to try to turn this kid into a killer? It wasn't evident, and it wasn't clear that was the case.
Apparently, we're not smart enough to figure it out.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think to me, this is one of those movies where it doesn't matter. I just went with it, and that's part of the mystique of the character. Is I don't know why he's doing what he's doing, but he's sort of on one of these dead end courses where I'm going to take as many people with me as I can in as gruesome a way as I can, and sooner or later somebody's going to kill me.
We're definitely overanalyzing the movie, which is probably a sign of its quality, because you don't do that for you don't say Friday the 13th. It's like, would he really wear a hockey mask? Because this is limiting his field of vision. He might trip over a rock. You don't do that. You just
visually, I think it's brilliant. I had a little trouble with the police when all the police get killed in the police station, and like half a dozen cars come rolling up, and for some reason nobody runs around to the back right away to
if he's in the cell, he didn't hear anything. He didn't hear anything. He heard nothing when those cops were getting murked out there.
He's a deep sleeper.
He was sleeping. He'd had a rough day.
Yeah.
All right. Any final comments? Let's wrap this up.
Oh, I liked the movie though. I liked it a lot. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, it's despite all the loops, holes of logic and stuff like that, it's an enjoyable movie. You have to take it for what it is, and just go with the flow, like you said, Jeff. Just go with it, and you'll enjoy it. Yeah. Rutger Hauer.
It definitely doesn't deserve the reputation it kind of has for brutality and everything. I mean, it's not something that random women should be beating up a cinematographer over. But and of course, anyone who hasn't seen it is listening to this. We kind of spoiled the big thing for you, but it is a shocking film, and mostly shocking for one scene. But that's something that isn't done. It's even today, years later, it's not something that you expect to see in a film. And if you do, it's kind of a gut punch. And not too many films have ever dared to do something like that. And, the fact that it didn't, rip up the box office, despite Jeff having seen it, maybe is one of the reasons why they don't do it that often, that audiences, especially American audiences, have certain rules. And if you break them, you pay a price. So, definitely worth watching to see something you're not going to see very often.
Yeah, and somewhere in the background material that somebody had said that they thought that the reason it didn't make very much money is it wasn't gory enough, that they didn't show that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of violence in the movie. It's just not on screen as much, right? I think the two cops getting shot are the only kills that are on scene, and that happens so quickly.
Well, and Rutger, too.
And Rutger, yeah. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. That was good. I thought that looked good.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this thing up. Yeah, that was actually kind of cool, too, in that they said that there was a couple different endings. One was that he would just walk up to him and shoot him, the final shot, which is, I think, what happens in the remake. I can't remember if he gets up. I don't know.
He just kills him in cold blood.
In this one, he goes up, I don't know. He sure looked dead. He doesn't give him a final shot, but all of a sudden, boom, he pops up in the background.
Yeah. Double tap, always double tap.
Well, Grue believers, that's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1980 and 1989. Next up, Bill.
Oh,
as
yeah.
the next
Okay.
pick. What are we
What
watching
is it,
next?
Bill?
Okay, so I thought we needed a change of pace. We've hit some pretty hardcore
Serial
stuff
killer
here.
hitchhikers.
Serial hitchhikers, just a lot of unpleasantness and everything.
Vampire.
And I was also
Mhm.
hoping by that point that we would have visuals here, and so I picked one that makes me think of Crystal, actually,
Oh,
and it
yay.
was one I had never seen. I had not
Uh-oh.
seen this film, so I got to watch it, and I have a lot to say about it. But
Uh-oh.
but
What
one
is
that
it?
I also thought that Crystal would have a lot to say about. And I think she gets the kind of the humor, the vibe that they're going for here. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, I love that. I just watched that recently.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna have fun with that one.
So
Oh, yeah.
funny.
A little lighter
Change of
stuff
pace.
here.
Something for the new year, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe that's like, a little change of luck. Yeah, that's fun.
All right. There's
Thanks.
plenty of ways to stay in touch with us. Please send your feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com,
Yay.
or you can leave comments on Gruesome Magazine's HNR and DOH podcast Facebook group, or the website, gruesomemagazine.com. Make sure and check us
here.
out on Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel. You can leave comments there. And you know what? If you, we do have Patreon patrons. If you donate as little as $1 a month, I think it is. I'm not exactly sure if there's a minimum on that. There are some things that you can get where we are. You get to see the DOH podcasts a week early if you're a Patreon. And there are some things coming up, some top 10s with some listeners or top 5s, I guess, with some listeners that Doc's working on that. He's got one lined up already. So
That's fun.
catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the 1980s, as only decades of horror can do it. Say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.